In this video, we will see how you can use Möbius to enter questions in the middle of lessons, which will help you create learning breakdowns for students even when they are accessing content on their own. During the last couple of years, instructors sharing notes with their students has become extremely common. Students like the fact that they have access to these notes that can be referred to whenever they want, and they can solely focus on the conceptual understanding inside the classroom. This was even helpful for instructors as this gave a sense of uniformity across the class in terms of the resources being accessed outside the classroom. As now, we didn't have students relying on secondary resources which might have issues with notational inconsistencies or even different teaching styles. But this came with a new set of challenges. Although instructors were able to share their resources with students, it made it next to impossible for them to track which students had gone through the notes and how much of the class really understood. You even saw some students start paying less attention inside the class as they would now have instructors' notes that they can cram day before the exam. This has prevented a lot of instructors from continuing with this practice when in-person classes resumed. This could have been a really interesting change in the educational ecosystem when instructors were now just deciding what and how the student is learning inside the classroom, but even guiding a student through his learning process when he goes back home. Let's take a look at how Möbius can help you with this. I will take you through some sample content and we'll discuss how adding a question will be helpful. This is a lesson that has a couple of pages with some content for a first year math student. Ideally, you would not share this with a student directly, but for the sake of this video, we can assume that both of these topics are part of one lecture that was taught today, and the instructors decided to share the content with the student. Now, I have some sample content on chain rule for differentiation. This is the concept that you would have covered inside the class, and this would be ideal for a student to have access to this when he or she goes back home as well. Additionally, you can also add an example, exactly like you would see in textbooks, where a student is able to see firsthand how chain rule can be applied to different problems. But is this enough? A teacher can share this with students, but again, they would have no control over whether the students have gone through the content or not, and also not be able to identify for the students who have gone through it, how much have they really understood. With Möbius, you'll be able to add a question right at the end of the example, which can help you track if there's a gap in understanding, both individually and for the whole class collectively as well. Now let us see how we can add a question. On the page, it will allow me to add a new question/text. I will click on it and a blank editor will appear. I will just enter the name of an example. This can be anything. And just write a sample statement. Find the derivative of y equal to sine of x to the power 6. There's plenty I can do to even change mathematical expressions. You can add mathematical expression using the equation editor available. That makes it extremely easy, so you don't need to require any LaTeX or any typesetting prerequisites. So I've entered the expression and I can even add themes, pre-built themes, which will help me then change some sort of formatting. And now you'll notice the color has turned black. Now for the question, I'm just left with deciding a response area. Möbius has 15 basic response areas that allows me to choose from. As the question requires a mathematical expression, I will use a mathematical formula here. Now I just need to enter the correct response, which is 6x to the power 5 cos x to the power 6, and click on insert. This will add a response area. We have a separate video that touches upon the need for adding symbolic response areas, so I won't delve deeper into that. Now the question has been added. Let's see how a student will be able to view this question. So I can just click on save and the student will be able to preview this. Now, instead of just reading through something, student will also be able to engage with the subject matter. and answer questions based upon their understanding. Now let me try. I'll change the entry mode to symbolic math and enter a response. X to the power 6. Click on how did I do, and it gives me that I am correct. Now let's take a look at other examples where inline questions can be used. On the second page, we can see an exploratory application for Taylor's approximation has been shared with the student. He or she has to play around with different parameters of the Taylor series approximation and based upon that see how it is actually changing. This will be extremely useful for students who go through the application, but again, an instructor would have no control over who goes through it or not. By adding questions based upon a student's working on this application, you're not only ensuring that a student goes through the application, but you can also ensure that the student's understanding of the topic would increase. And then when you've shared this lesson with your students, you'd also be able to see at an activity level what student got these questions correct and what student did not even attempt these questions, meaning they did not even open the lesson. Based upon this information, you can change your course plan by maybe adding another tutorial, having a surprise quiz, or even restricting access to future lessons based upon the lack of responses here. This is how you can incorporate Möbius into your existing course structure, which can allow you to leverage even time outside the classroom for students' learning. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified about more videos like this one, and don't forget to hit that like button.